In the shadowy carnival of human connection, where most people are bright, bustling attractions, demanding attention and maintenance, there exists a rare creature who operates like a beautifully melancholic music box, captivating in their stillness, enchanting in their self-sufficiency, mysterious in their contentment with solitude. This peculiar being doesn't chase the avoidant through their emotional graveyard, doesn't try to resurrect their buried feelings, doesn't attempt to drag them from their comfortable darkness into the harsh light of conventional intimacy. Instead, they exist as a fellow inhabitant of life's more shadowed corners. Someone who understands that love doesn't always wear bright colors or speak in cheerful proclamations. They appreciate the beauty and emotional minimalism, the elegance of understated affection, the profound intimacy that can exist in shared silence rather than endless conversation. This extraordinary soul doesn't see the avoidant's emotional distance as a problem to be solved or a wall to be torn down. They see it as an architectural feature of someone's inner landscape, perhaps unusual, certainly distinctive, but not inherently broken or in need of renovation. They understand that some people are cathedrals, while others are cozy cottages, and both have their own unique beauty. The avoidant, accustomed to being treated like a malfunctioning machine in need of repair, encounters this person and experiences something unprecedented: acceptance of their exact emotional specifications. No upgrades required, no modifications demanded, no pressure to become a brighter, warmer, more conventionally loving version of themselves. This rare individual operates on the same emotional frequency as the avoidant: low, steady, sustainable. They don't create the kind of dramatic highs and devastating lows that send avoidants running for the exits. Instead, they offer something far more seductive to someone who fears emotional chaos: predictable, calm, reliable presence, and the comfortable certainty that tomorrow will feel much like today. They become the avoidant's emotional home, not through passionate pursuit or dramatic declaration, but through the simple magic of making attachment feel safe. They don't demand the avoidant's heart. They simply create such a comfortable space that the heart chooses to reside there permanently. This isn't a love story about opposites attracting or broken people healing each other. This is a Gothic romance between two souls who found their perfect match in beautiful strangeness, their ideal companion for life's deliciously dark journey. Together, they create something more enchanting than conventional love. They create understanding. The architecture of their peculiar appeal. The person who captures an avoidant's eternal loyalty possesses an otherworldly quality that defies conventional relationship wisdom. They're simultaneously ethereal and grounded, mysterious yet transparent, needing little yet offering much. They exist in perfect emotional twilight, neither too bright to overwhelm the avoidant's sensitive system, nor too dark to disappear entirely into the shadows they both call home. Their appeal lies not in their beauty or charm, though they may possess both, but in their supernatural ability to remain unruffled by the avoidant's emotional peculiarities. They observe the avoidant's retreat into solitude with the same mild interest one might show toward changing weather patterns, noting it, perhaps commenting on it, but never taking it personally or demanding it stop. This remarkable creature operates with an internal compass that points steadily toward their own true north, regardless of the avoidant's emotional magnetic field. They don't orbit around the avoidant's moods, don't adjust their entire emotional ecosystem to accommodate someone else's limitations, don't reshape themselves into whatever form might earn consistent affection. They simply exist beautifully and completely as themselves. Their self-sufficiency isn't performed for effect. It's genuinely how they navigate the world. They don't need constant validation, regular emotional check-ins, or daily proof of love to feel secure. They possess an internal emotional generator that keeps them powered regardless of external circumstances. This independence paradoxically makes them irresistible to someone who fears being drained by another person's needs. They speak in the avoidant's native tongue of subtle gestures and implied meanings, a cup of coffee appearing at exactly the right moment, a book recommendation that reveals deep understanding, a comfortable silence that communicates more than hours of conversation ever could. They understand that for some people, love is a whisper rather than a shout, a gentle presence rather than a dramatic declaration. Their peculiar appeal extends to their relationship with time itself. They don't rush toward milestones or demand relationship progression according to conventional timelines. They exist in an eternal present moment, content with whatever level of connection is available today without desperately needing promises about tomorrow. This temporal flexibility allows the avoidant to attach gradually, organically, without feeling pressured by artificial deadlines. Most remarkably, they possess an almost supernatural resistance to taking things personally. When the avoidant withdraws, they don't interpret it as rejection. When the avoidant struggles with intimacy, they don't see it as inadequacy. When the avoidant needs space, they don't experience it as abandonment. They understand that other people's emotional patterns are information about those people, not verdicts about their own worth. Their appeal culminates in their ability to make the avoidant feel chosen, rather than settled for, appreciated rather than tolerated, understood rather than endured. With this person, the avoidance limitations transform from relationship liabilities into relationship characteristics, simply part of who they are rather than problems to be solved. The dance of beautiful indifference. They master the delicate choreography of caring without clinging, loving without suffocating, being present without being invasive. Like dancers who found their perfect partner, they move in harmony with the avoidant's rhythm rather than trying to change the tempo of the dance. They offer love that's both passionate and patient, intense yet undemanding, a combination that feels impossible until you witness it in action. Their indifference isn't coldness disguised as strategy. It's genuine contentment with whatever level of connection the avoidant can sustainably provide. They don't measure their worth by how much attention they receive or how frequently they're chosen. They possess an internal sense of value that remains constant regardless of external validation, making them immune to the hot and cold treatment that sends most people running. This beautiful indifference manifests in their response to the avoidant's typical relationship tests. When the avoidant creates artificial distance to see if they'll chase, they respond with mild curiosity rather than desperate pursuit. When the avoidant withdraws affection to gauge their desperation level, they continue living their full, interesting life without missing a beat. When the avoidant threatens to leave to see if they'll beg, they wish them well with genuine sincerity. They've somehow achieved the impossible. They care deeply while remaining genuinely unattached to specific outcomes. They love the avoidant completely while accepting that love might not be returned in conventional ways. They invest in the relationship fully while maintaining the emotional flexibility to survive if it ends. This paradoxical combination of deep investment and casual attachment feels like magic to someone accustomed to people who love desperately or not at all. Their dance includes perfect timing. They know when to approach and when to retreat, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to offer comfort and when to allow solitude. They read the avoidant's emotional weather with meteorological precision, adjusting their own behavior accordingly without making it seem like work or sacrifice. Most beautifully, they don't need the avoidant to complete them because they arrive already whole. They're not looking for someone to fill their empty spaces or heal their broken parts. They're simply looking for compatible company on life's journey. Someone whose particular brand of strangeness harmonizes with their own. This completeness removes the pressure that typically suffocates avoidance in relationships. Their indifference extends to conventional relationship expectations. They don't need public displays of affection, regular romantic gestures, or constant verbal affirmations of love. They're perfectly content with love expressed through sustained presence, reliable companionship, and the quiet intimacy of shared understanding. They speak fluent Avoidant without needing translation services. The dance they create together becomes a masterpiece of mutual respect. Two people moving in perfect synchronization, not because they've compromised themselves, but because they found someone whose natural rhythm matches their own. The comfort of mutual strangeness. Both parties exist as delightful oddities who found their matching peculiarity in a world that often demands conformity to conventional emotional expression. They're like two rare butterflies who've discovered they share the same unusual wing pattern, distinctive, beautiful, and perfectly suited for each other's particular flight path. Through life's more mysterious territories, the avoidant discovers someone whose strangeness complements rather than threatens their own carefully cultivated eccentricities. Where most people see the avoidant's emotional minimalism as a defect requiring correction, this person sees it as an intriguing feature worthy of appreciation. They don't try to drag the avoidant into the bright, noisy world of conventional romance. Instead, they create a shared space where both can exist authentically in their preferred emotional climate. Their mutual strangeness manifests in countless small ways that would seem insignificant to outsiders, but feel profoundly meaningful to both participants. They might prefer parallel activities to face-to-face conversations, find comfort in predictable routines rather than spontaneous adventures, or express affection through practical gestures rather than romantic declarations. Their shared appreciation for life's quieter pleasures creates a sanctuary where neither feels pressured to be more social, more emotional, or more conventional than they naturally are. This person doesn't just tolerate the avoidant's peculiarities, they celebrate them. They find the avoidant's need for solitude charming rather than concerning, their emotional restraint elegant rather than cold, their preference for subtle communication sophisticated rather than inadequate. This celebration of difference creates a dynamic where the avoidant feels appreciated for exactly who they are rather than loved despite who they are. They create a private world together that operates by its own rules, customs, and traditions. Their relationship exists in a kind of alternate universe where love doesn't require constant verbal expression, where intimacy can be achieved through comfortable silence, where commitment is demonstrated through consistent presence rather than dramatic gesture. In this world, both parties can relax into their authentic selves without fear of judgment or demands for change. Their shared strangeness extends to their social preferences. They might both find large gatherings exhausting, prefer deep conversations with one person to small talk with many, or enjoy activities that others might consider unusual or boring. This compatibility in their social needs eliminates the common relationship conflict between partners who want different things from their social lives. Most importantly, they understand that their mutual strangeness is not a limitation but a feature. They don't see themselves as two broken people who've settled for each other. They see themselves as two rare specimens who've had the extraordinary fortune to find their perfect match. Their strangeness becomes a source of pride rather than shame, a bond that strengthens rather than weakens their connection. They build traditions around their shared oddities. Perhaps they have elaborate rituals around their morning coffee, specific ways they like to spend their evenings together, or unique methods of communication that would seem cryptic to outsiders but feel perfectly natural to them. These traditions become the foundation of their shared life, creating a sense of belonging that neither has found elsewhere. Their comfort with mutual strangeness allows them to age gracefully together, becoming more themselves rather than less. As their relationship deepens, they don't need to perform normality for each other, don't need to pretend to want things they don't actually want, don't need to apologize for being exactly who they are. The sanctuary of understood silence. This person speaks the avoidant's native language of comfortable, quiet, meaningful glances and love expressed through presence rather than words. They understand that for some souls, silence isn't an empty space waiting to be filled with chatter. It's a rich, textured landscape full of unspoken communication and peaceful coexistence. Together they build a relationship that feels like a Gothic masterpiece, visually stunning, emotionally rich, but beautifully understated in its expression. They create conversations that happen entirely without words. A raised eyebrow that asks a question, a slight smile that provides an answer, a gentle touch that offers comfort. Their silent communication becomes so sophisticated that they develop their own wordless vocabulary, understanding each other's moods, needs, and thoughts through subtle cues that would be invisible to outside observers. This creates an intimacy that feels almost telepathic in its precision. Their sanctuary extends to their physical spaces, which they design around the principle of peaceful coexistence rather than constant interaction. They might read separate books in the same room, work on individual projects while sharing space, or simply exist in each other's presence without feeling obligated to entertain or be entertained. Their togetherness doesn't require constant engagement. It simply requires mutual presence and respect for each other's internal worlds. The silence they share isn't awkward or tense. It's the comfortable quiet of two people who found their perfect companion for life's quieter moments. They don't need to fill every moment with conversation because they understand that some of life's most profound experiences happen in the spaces between words. Their silence becomes a form of intimacy that many couples never achieve despite years of constant talking. They build rituals around their shared appreciation for quiet, perhaps evening walks where they observe their surroundings without commentary, meals eaten in peaceful contemplation, or bedtime routines that involve simply being present with each other without the need for extensive discussion of the day's events. These rituals become sacred spaces where both can recharge and reconnect without depleting their limited social energy. This person understands that for the avoidant, words can sometimes feel dangerous. They can be used as weapons, create obligations, or demand responses that feel overwhelming. By creating a relationship where communication happens through presence and action rather than constant verbal expression, they eliminate the pressure that makes many avoidants retreat from intimacy. Their sanctuary of silence becomes a place where both can be vulnerable without feeling exposed, intimate without feeling invaded, connected without feeling suffocated. They discover that some of love's most powerful expressions happen in the quiet moments when two people simply choose to exist together in peaceful harmony. The loyal haunting. Once bonded to this extraordinary soul, the avoidant transforms into something resembling a devoted spirit, forever attached to the one person who understood their particular brand of beautiful darkness. They don't stay out of obligation, fear, or lack of options. They stay because they found their perfect partner in life's magnificent strangeness, their ideal companion for navigating the world's more shadowed corners. Their loyalty takes on an otherworldly quality that's both touching and slightly supernatural. Like a ghost who's found their purpose, the avoidant becomes permanently tethered to this relationship, not through chains of dependency, but through threads of genuine appreciation. They've discovered someone who makes their existence feel meaningful without making it feel burdensome. This loyalty manifests in ways that would seem small to outsiders, but feel monumental to someone who spent their life avoiding lasting attachments. The avoidant who once fled at the first sign of relationship complexity now stays through difficulties with the steadfast devotion of someone protecting something precious. They become fiercely protective of their connection, not through jealousy or possessiveness, but through the quiet determination of someone who knows they've found something irreplaceable. They begin to build their entire life around maintaining this one perfect relationship. Not in a codependent way that sacrifices their individuality, but in a way that honors the rarity of what they found. They make decisions with this person's presence in mind, create routines that accommodate their shared preferences, and develop a life structure that supports their unusual but functional dynamic. The avoidant's loyalty becomes visible in their consistency. They show up reliably, contribute steadily to the relationship's maintenance, and remain present through the ordinary difficulties that would have sent them running in previous connections. They discover they possess reserves of relationship endurance they never knew existed simply because they're finally in a relationship that doesn't exhaust those reserves through constant drama or impossible demands. Their haunting quality emerges in how completely they integrate this person into their internal world. Even when physically apart, they carry their partner's presence with them like a protective talisman. They make decisions by considering how this person would react, find comfort in imagining their voice during difficult moments, and experience a kind of phantom limb syndrome when separated for extended periods. The avoidant becomes someone who's learned to love sustainably, deeply enough to create lasting bonds, but in ways that don't drain their limited emotional resources. They discover that loyalty doesn't require constant emotional labor when it's directed towards someone who doesn't demand constant emotional performance. Their devotion takes on an almost spiritual quality, as if they found not just a partner but a purpose. They become the guardian of this rare connection, the protector of this unusual love story, the keeper of the sanctuary they've built together in a world that often feels too bright, too loud, and too demanding for souls like theirs. The price of being their eternal muse. Being the object of an avoidant's lifelong loyalty is both enchanting and isolating. You become their singular obsession, their only source of deep connection, their exclusive emotional confidant in a relationship that exists in its own Gothic fairy tale reality. This extraordinary position comes with privileges that feel almost magical and responsibilities that can feel overwhelming in their intensity and exclusivity. You inherit the weight of being someone's only emotional outlet, their singular safe harbor in a world they perceive as emotionally treacherous. Every conversation becomes precious because you're the only person they trust with their authentic thoughts. Every moment of vulnerability carries extra significance because you're the sole recipient of their carefully rationed emotional expression. You become the keeper of secrets they've never shared, the witness to feelings they've never expressed, the guardian of a version of themselves that no one else will ever see. This exclusive access to their inner world creates a kind of beautiful burden. You receive the full intensity of their limited but genuine capacity for love, but you also bear the responsibility of being their only emotional resource. When they need comfort, understanding, or simply human connection, you're not just their preferred choice, you are their only choice. This can feel simultaneously flattering and suffocating depending on your own emotional needs and energy levels. Your role as their eternal muse means you become frozen in time as the perfect person who earned their loyalty. They develop an almost religious devotion to maintaining the conditions that created your bond, which can make the relationship feel both incredibly stable and strangely static. Change becomes threatening not because they dislike growth, but because they fear disrupting the precise alchemy that made you their chosen one. You must navigate the peculiar challenge of being simultaneously the most important person in someone's life and the only important person in their emotional landscape. While you receive unprecedented devotion and attention, you also inherit the isolation that comes from being someone's sole emotional connection to humanity. Your relationship exists in a beautiful bubble that can sometimes feel more like a snow globe. Lovely to observe, but completely separate from the outside world. The price includes accepting that their love, while deep and genuine, operates within very specific parameters. You're cherished for your exact emotional specifications, appreciated for your precise compatibility with their limitations, adored for your ability to love them within their narrow comfort zone. This creates security but also constraint. You become perfect by being exactly who you are, which can make growth and change feel dangerous to the relationship's stability. You must also accept that their loyalty, while absolute, doesn't extend beyond you. You remain their only deep connection, which means you can never fully share the burden of being their emotional support system. You can't introduce them to friends and expect them to form additional meaningful bonds. You can't rely on them to develop other sources of comfort and connection that might lighten your load as their singular safe person. Your transformation into their universe. As their chosen one, you undergo a gradual transformation from being a person they love into being the center of their entire emotional cosmos. This metamorphosis happens so slowly and feels so natural that you might not recognize how completely you've become their universe until you try to imagine their world without you, and realize it would simply cease to exist in any meaningful way. You become not just their partner, but their emotional gravity, the force around which their entire life orbits. Their decisions, routines, preferences, and future plans all revolve around maintaining and protecting your shared dynamic. They don't just love you, they organize their entire existence around the principle of keeping you present and content within their carefully constructed world. This transformation affects how you see yourself and your role in their life. You're no longer just someone they choose to be with. You become someone they cannot imagine being without. Your presence shifts from being desired to being essential, from being appreciated to being absolutely necessary for their continued emotional functioning. This can feel incredibly empowering and terrifyingly responsible simultaneously. Your own identity begins to intertwine with theirs in ways that feel both romantic and slightly unsettling. You become so integral to their sense of self that losing you would require them to rebuild not just their life, but their entire concept of who they are. You're not just their partner, you're their proof that they're capable of sustained love. They're evidence that they're not completely broken, their demonstration that deep connection is possible for someone like them. The transformation includes becoming fluent in their unique emotional language and needs. You develop an almost supernatural ability to read their moods, anticipate their needs, and provide exactly the right kind of support at exactly the right moment. This skill becomes so refined that you sometimes understand their emotional state better than they do, making you not just their partner, but their emotional translator and guide. You also transform into their anchor to normality, their connection to the ordinary world of human relationships and social conventions. Through you, they experience secondhand what it feels like to be someone who can sustain love, maintain connections, and exist comfortably in relationship with another person. You become their window into emotional experiences they cannot access directly. Your transformation culminates in becoming irreplaceable in the most literal sense. With most people, love creates deep attachment, but doesn't create absolute dependency. With the avoidant who's chosen you as their eternal muse, you become so woven into their fundamental sense of self and purpose that your removal would require them to become an entirely different person. You don't just hold their heart, you become their heart, their emotional life force, their reason for believing that love is possible. This transformation is both the ultimate romantic fantasy and the ultimate romantic responsibility. You become someone's everything.